Okay, my friends, here it is. The video that is going to explain to you everything you need to know in order to successfully be able to determine for yourself what plants can be grown in varying degrees of shade. Because I've been getting a lot of questions about this from you guys, so I decided to make a video to clear that up right now. Now, the first thing that we have to understand is that plants are solar powered, meaning they use the energy of the sun to combine all of the elements and then produce the plant material. And so any of you that have solar panels on your house know that when the sun is out in full blast, boom, you get that full power. You got plenty of power to run your stuff, okay? But when the clouds are up, oh yeah, the solar panels ain't really working that good. You don't got full power, you just got a little bit of power. And then in the middle of winter, when you barely see any sun at all, you hardly have any power coming from the solar panels, okay? So the leaves of the plants are like the solar panel for the plant. They're the power factory for the plant. And so all plants can be grown in varying degrees of shade. I mean, all garden vegetables that we consume can be grown in varying degrees of shade. But here's the thing, just like the solar panels on your house, they're going to work at varying efficiencies. And so, yes, you can plant something like a tomato in partial shade and it will grow and you will get some tomatoes. Probably, but it's not going to be nowhere near the force and the vigorousness that you would get from the full sun tomato. Yes? You understand? Okay, so the first principle is that all plants are solar powered and that they can grow with varying degrees of shade. Now the second principle is, what are the varying degrees of shade? So again, I'm going to categorize these. These are my own. I made them up, I think. So full sun is 8+ hours of direct sunlight. Partial sun is 6 hours of direct sunlight. Partial shade is 3 to 4 hours of direct sunlight. And then shade is anything lower than 3 to 4 hours of direct sunlight. Okay, so that's considered shade. So it's actually really tough to grow things in full shade, like underneath a tree where not even grass grows. That's very difficult. Only certain plants can grow there. And for the most part, the vegetables that we grow, that's not really going to function properly, okay? So now you have to determine if you have full sun, partial shade, or shade. And once you do this, now you have to determine what plant you want to plant there. And so I have categorized them into two distinct categories. The plants where we eat the roots or the fruits, and the plants where we eat the leaves or the shoots. And so the roots or the fruits, they need full sun to partial sun. The ones where we eat the leaves or the shoots, they can go from partial sun, 6, all the way down to shade, some of them. But now remember, and I'll show you specific examples here in a moment, but remember, there's varying degrees of success, okay? So even if you plant a tomato that would do best in full sun, as much sun as possible, if you planted it into partial shade, it would still grow and you would still get something. So you have to understand that, but it would never be as powerful as it could be in the full sun because the solar panel energy is not there. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some seeds right now and then I'm gonna say, we're gonna determine, is that gonna be good for shade, for partial shade or shade? Cucumbers? No, because we grow it for the root or the fruit. And they are going to need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight to produce anything meaningful. Dragon tongue beans or bush beans of any kind? Nope, because we grow for the root or the fruit. And so this is going to need full sun. All right, you can grow it in partial shade, but it's not going to give you what you want. Now, shijimisa or one of the greens, this we eat the leaf or the shoot. So we could grow this in the shade, or in partial shade, or in partial sun, although it would do really well in full sun as well. Spinach is going to be another partial sun to partial shade, and shade, because we're eating the leaf. Now the tomatoes, of course, we eat the root or the fruit, and so we are not going to have good results if we're planting tomatoes in the shade or in any degree of shade. Likewise, the squash, they're not going to do well in the shade. Now here are some things that do well in the shade. Is the kale will do just great because we're eating the leaves. Cilantro loves some shade, especially afternoon shade. Collard greens, they're going to do equally as well in shade, partial shade, or full sun. They are really good. Collard greens, hot, cold, doesn't matter. They're super hardy. They're the last thing, they're the first thing I plant in the garden and the last thing that leaves the garden. It has to get really cold before the collard greens succumb. Now, cabbage is another thing that you can grow in the partial sun, 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. Okay, Chinese cabbage or the actual heading cabbage like Gloria Weinkusen or the Brunswick cabbage or the Golden Acres cabbage. Now, last year I grew a number of different crops, and in previous years I grew them up against a fence that was north and south running. And so it got exactly about 6 hours of sun. And so I did so many different experiments, and I come to find out that the cabbages grown in partial sun did just as well as the ones grown in full sun. And that was true with the Chinese cabbage as well. And that was also true with the Swiss chard, the Vulcan Swiss chard. And so you can plant the Swiss chard in all the way up to shade. If I had a spot that was totally shady, I would go for Swiss chard, the Vulcan Swiss chard. That would be the number one thing that I think would do well in full shade. Okay. Other things that do really well in shade, in partial shade, are going to be any of the greens, really, because we're eating it for the leaves or the shoots. Now, much to your surprise, two things that I have had do well in partial sun, partial shade are beets and carrots. But here's the thing: you will not get ones that are as big and vigorous as you would in full sun or 6+ hours of sun. Okay, but you can grow these in a partial shade. And just so I don't forget, ginger grows really well in the shade, okay? Ginger can grow with more shade than just about any of the other plants. In fact, it does not like direct sunlight. I put it out mistakenly the other day, and it got a little bit burnt because it had a couple hours of direct sunlight. Ginger doesn't mind some shade. Celery does really well in partial shade, partial sun. Parsley does really well as also. Now, some things that do not do well: the tubers, because this is actually not a root, it's a tuber. And so this is not going to do very well in the partial shade. So the potatoes, they really want full sun, just like the sweet potatoes as well. Now, here are some things that will not appreciate any kind of shade. Corn absolutely needs full blast sun. Okay, it's of the grass family, and so it really needs full blast sun for best results. So do peppers, so do winter squash, so do summer squash, so do beans. Those all need full blast sun because we're eating it for the root or the fruit. Yes, beans of any kind. And Brussels sprouts, they also need the full sun. Okay, so hopefully, because there's so many different kinds of plants and people are growing so many different things, it would be, I can't just give you a full list of exactly what would be appropriate because I would miss some things. But now hopefully you can tell based upon your own judgment what you can grow. And remember, if in doubt, plant it in the full sun. All of the vegetable plants that we grow are going to prefer full sun. But if you don't have that, then you will have varying degrees of success along the scale of shade to sun. But if in doubt, grow something that you're going to eat the leaf or the shoot, and that you will have the best success with. So if you feel like you gained something from the video, give it a thumbs up. Also, share your experience in the comments so that other people can read it and they can learn. So what plants have you grown in shade as opposed to full sun, and how did it do? So check out the links in the description for all kinds of good stuff. Check out the Garden Like a Viking Instagram. And I will see you guys on Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time for the live stream. I will be coming at you live from Chattanooga, Tennessee.